Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call this regular meeting of council for Tuesday, June 21st, 2022 to order. I'll ask for the blessing and land acknowledgement from Councillor Poirier.
Our Heavenly Father, thank you for the many blessings we enjoy in the city of Kenora. As we gather, we recognize that we are on Treaty 3 lands, which are steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nation and Métis people today. We continue to be thankful for the partnerships with Indigenous people. Give us wisdom in our minds, clearness in our thinking, truth in our speaking, and always love in our hearts, so that we may try always to unite the citizens of Kenora. Be with us today and guide us in our decision making. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Poirier. Public information notices. As required under Notice Bylaw number 144/2007, the public is advised of Council's intention to adopt the following at today's meeting. Authorize budget amendments as a result of recent funding announcements that were not previously built into the 2022 capital plan. $500,000 to be funded through the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation, NOHFC, for the City of Kenora Parks Repairs and Improvement Project. $450,000 to be funded through the NOHFC for the Norman Park Playground Interpretive Area Upgrade and Improvement Project. $500,000 to be funded under the NOHFC for the City of Kenora Baseball Diamond Enhancement Project. $500,000 to be funded through the NOHFC for the City of Kenora Keewaydin Memorial Arena Repair and Upgrade Project. $480,000 to be funded through the NOHFC for the City of Kenora Dock Upgrade Project. $400,000 to be funded through the NOHFC for the Museum Retrofit Project. And $3,666,499.56 to be funded through Invest in Canada Infrastructure Program, ICIP, through its Community, Culture and Recreation Stream Program for the Kenora Recreation Centre Rehabilitation Project. Acquire 38 properties for municipal purposes from the Province of Ontario described in FCP 2200-041, list of forfeited corporate properties and property descriptions in the amount of $3,276 plus HST. I'll ask Council for any declaration of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof on today's agenda or from a previous meeting at which a member was not in attendance. Seeing none. I'll ask for resolution number 1, confirmation of previous council minutes, regular council, May 17th, 2022.
Deputy Mayor, resolution number 1, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Poirier, that the following minutes of the Council of the City of Kenora be adopted as circulated. Regular Council, May 17th, 2022.
Thank you, Councillor Bowden-Malcolm. All in favor? Opposed? Hearing none? Carried. We have 2 deputations today. Our first deputation will be from the Lake of the Woods District Stewardship Association Prevention. And who's ever presenting, we have the podium you can come forward to. You can come up here. Hi.
Okay, well, we'll just put that there. Good afternoon. My name is Chris Semenchuk. I'm the past president of the Lake of the Woods District Stewardship Association. It gives us great pleasure to come before you today to celebrate our relationship with the City of Kenora. This year represents our 60th anniversary of our association, and there's no better way to celebrate this milestone than to present the City of Kenora with this commemorative paddle. Our association believes in sustaining a respectful and positive presence with government, business, and the larger community of the Lake of the Woods region. This past year has been marked with even greater collaboration with the City of Kenora.
We want to take this opportunity to thank you in a more formal capacity, from city councillors taking loud memberships to support of our environmental stewardship activities, such as our mobile boat wash station, which is hosted at the Discovery Center as well as the Kenora Rec Center. Further support to even hosting Loudsa as a guest on the Waves City of Kenora podcast has been truly appreciated, and we thank you for your support. For 60 years, the Lake of the Woods District Stewardship Association has been working to preserve and sustain lake life in the region, and we look forward to sharing our common goals to further strengthen our relationship and enhance collaboration.
Thanks, Patrick. My name is Garth Collier. I'm the current president. I think my voice projected without drinking on that. What is LOUDSA? It stands for, as I think it's already been made clear, the Lake of the Woods District Stewardship Association. We're a nonprofit, and our vision is that the Lake of the Woods remains one of the most beautiful places on earth for present and future generations. The City of Kenora's support for the association is meaningful to not only the members of the association, but to those of us who visit and share the same passion for the lake as we do and as you do. In sustaining a respectful and positive relationship with the city, we're able to educate and engage LOUDSA members and the larger community of the Lake of the Woods area on issues that matter most to them and to ourselves. We have approximately 2,500 members, most of whom pass through Kenora at some time through the year. Our mission is that LOUDSA engages and educates for environmental sustainability in the Lake of the Woods region. In the area news, I think you are all members, so you get copies of that. That's our flagship, and it's something that we're very proud of. It's published 5 times a year, and it helps us connect people to the lake year-round. K-Town, as they call it, is an exciting place with so much to offer for both residents and visitors. To celebrate enhanced collaboration and stewardship between LOUDSA and the City of Kenora, we present to you this paddle, a symbol of passion, connection, and time spent at what many call their place of paradise. I was just wondering if a picture would be permissible?
Yeah, I'll take a picture as well.
That'd be awesome. And we want to come back next year with the canoe?
I need a paddle.
Might come into the center.
I'm sorry.
No, all of you? Or,
Actually, I'll move this way if you want to come towards the front. Now we could have council maybe in the back.
Sure.
this guy was very good.
And we have Lena, our social media. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's more my style.
Go ahead, Chris.
Very nice.
They could go in there, right?
Can I,
Certainly.
you know what, here, all of us. No, you go back over there.
I should
There.
sign
Very
it.
good.
Well, I'd just like to say on behalf of Kenora City Council, thank you very much for the work that you do in our community. I mean, we have this beautiful lake. I mean, it's what it draws us here to visit and to live, and the work that you have done in stewardship of this lake as well is well known and well appreciated. So thank you very much. It's an honor to accept this on behalf of council from you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next year I'm expecting the paddle.
Sharon,
Because lots of times we're up the river without a.
Yeah, so we think that podcast is going to drop any day. It's just about ready, so stay tuned for that.
And I haven't responded to it because I couldn't open it. I'm old. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your deputation.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, take care, everybody.
Yeah. Our next deputation today is from Synergy North. They're going to present their annual report. I will allow you gentlemen to introduce yourself and then move into your presentation.
Of course,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Worship. My name is Tim Wilson, President CEO of Synergy North, and to my left is Garrett Armstrong, our board chair, my boss, quite literally. Before I get into my presentation, I know that Gary wanted to address council just with some of his words on how the last year has gone.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having us again. And following that presentation, Kenora is a beautiful city, so our town, city. So it is nice to be here. Nice to enjoy the scenery that you have here. You can see why everybody wants to live here. So just a couple of things I just wanted to raise. One of the things, of course, you've gone through it. The last time we were here, you had all your partitions up for the the pandemic and the COVID protection stuff. So the last couple of years have been very trying for the organization, being a customer service utility. And later on in the presentation, Mr. Wilson will deal with some of the financial and performance issues that we had as an organization, but I'm sure that you can, because you had the similar situations to deal with. From our end of it, we literally had to take all of our customer service people, have them work remote. All of our crews were divided into geographic areas and separated so that they wouldn't contaminate. In the event that someone got contaminated, it wouldn't take out the whole crew. We had staggered shifts. All of the things that we went through as a highly customer-focused organization really tested the ability of the organization to respond. And as board chair, I'm pleased to say that the organization did very well. We weathered through that, our performance metrics and some of our standards that we use to assess our Ontario Energy Board criteria have all been exceeded given the pandemic. So we're very proud of that. I won't take away from Mr. Wilson's presentation, but I did want to comment and just kind of mention that your representative on our board, John McDougall, is an excellent director. Very proud of the work that he brings to the board and the contribution that he makes, and it's a pleasure to have him on our board. So with that, I'll turn it over to more of the business side.
So this is not a lengthy presentation deck. I'm happy to hear that the councillors here received the newly amended strategic plan. I'll mention that later on in the presentation a little bit. You should also receive an annual report. If you don't have that, I will make sure that that goes out. There's some very good infographics about, halfway through the booklet itself, which kind of gives you a nice visual synopsis, snapshot of the work that's gone on in the last year. My board chair has mentioned, yes, of course, we still talk about the pandemic. We're shifting the conversation for us a little bit away from that. We can go to the next slide. And we're going to spend we're changing the language around to be more about global inflation and supply issues. So, moving off the pure pandemic view of the world. This is just a reminder for everybody here, the ownership model. City of Kenora, 8.31% of Synergy North. And then it's, not complicated, but certainly 91.69% is owned by Thunder Bay Hydro Corp, which is 100% owned by the City of Thunder Bay. So you can see Thunder Bay Hydro Corporation actually owns three companies: the electricity distribution utility, a back office services co, which would have provided services to Kenora Hydro at one time before the merger, and then our renewable power corporation, which is our landfill gas, but not to be confused, those all remain under Thunder Bay Hydro Corp. But just a reminder as to how the corporate structure is. So, at the table here, you represent a significant portion of the share value of the company at 8.31%. So the next slide is just some of the highlights coming out of the pandemic. A reminder, I guess, when customers use electricity, we are responsible for collecting the entire bill that they owe, but they really only owe the utility about 25% of that bill. The other 75% of the bill we collect on behalf of other players in the province, so the generators, the transmitters, something that some large businesses would not be happy with, which is a global adjustment. There's how they deal with variances between price they pay for generation and what they charge, and conservation efforts all gets put into this other account. So there's a lot of things that go on a bill. And the utility really, from a distribution perspective, only has about 20 to 25% of that, but we're responsible for collecting the whole bill. So when there's customer defaults, we're on the hook. We don't get to go to the independent electricity system operator who manages, renewable energy contracts or Ontario power generation. We don't get to go to them and say, we need to be made whole. We hold the basket. And so, one of the things that we were quite literally super concerned about was customer defaults during the pandemic. So we monitored receivables extremely closely, and what we have yet to see is really any what I would call significant or material impact on our receivables. So for whatever reason, both on the residential side and on the commercial side, in general, people are weathering the storm. We do see some shift between customers in that real small commercial category. Those numbers going up and the ones in a little bit of a larger category going down, but it's balancing out. At the end of the day, we're not seeing customer numbers decline and we're not seeing defaults on payments, so that's very good. What we are seeing are significant issues on the pricing of supplies. So electrical cable, poles, transformers, anything that you can imagine that you would see out there in terms of construction to support the distribution system has gone up. And not only have prices gone up significantly, wait times are astronomical. So, for example, cable that might have taken us 24 to 26 weeks on wait time, we're now getting quotes back on 48 to 52 weeks. We're getting some quotes back on a lot of them have doubled, maybe even more so. Transformers, 65, 70-week delivery. So this is of concern to us. We've pre-ordered as much as we can. We started doing that probably ahead of what a lot of other utilities in the province were doing. And we were acquiring poles like before this time last year, and have an extra laydown area outside of our yard in Thunder Bay to prepare for this. But if I can give you some perspective on price increase, pole top transformers, the small cans as we call them that you would see up on a pole, typically would cost the utility about $2,500. At today's prices, we're getting quotes at between $10,500 and $12,000 for one. And the manufacturers are not guaranteeing the price anymore. They're saying, that's today's price when you order. We're going to give you a hold in the manufacturing queue that we can't guarantee. And we're also going to quote you a price that we can't guarantee. So there's a lot of up in the air uneasiness about where costs may continue to go over the next what I would say 6 to 12 months. We're okay for this year. We'll start to see some of the impact of the price increases near maybe the end of this year, the beginning of next year, because we're using up our old inventory first. So we're going to continue to monitor operating expenses. What we did do as well to kind of combat our concerns about inflation, supply delivery, customer defaults, is we deferred some capital spending. So in 2020, we pulled back about $1 million of spending that we held off so we could keep the balance sheet strong. And in hindsight, did we need to do that? Okay, maybe not, but it wasn't a bad decision at the time. We didn't see those defaults. Well, we're getting caught up now on that spending, and we expect to be back up to normal spending levels by the end of next year. So on the next slide. So as Gary mentioned, all of our service quality indicators that we register with the Ontario Energy Board, they set standards for number of calls you have to answer in 30 seconds, your reliability standards, new connections within 5 days. There's a bunch of metrics that have to be met across the province, and we were able to exceed all of those and continue on. In fact, we didn't see a drop in any of our service standards, so that was good. What we did see is an increased amount of community charitable support over that last couple of years. And really worked when we had customers calling in who were in, maybe in a position of financial distress, to really make sure they got to, the LEAP program or the OESP or anything like that we could funnel them to. We made sure. So in total, our estimate is that across the two service territories, we at least directed customers to about $1.8 million of financial assistance that was available out there. We think that helped quite a bit actually in terms of us not seeing customer defaults. So the next slide. So this is just a picture of what our revenues look like. So the majority of that bar chart, I'm colorblind, so I'm just going to say the blue and the other blue, the darker blue and the light blue. Is that if that's fair? If it's blue, you guys can all laugh after it's purple. So the main one there, the highest piece, you just kind of see a little it's pretty steady revenue. You know, our customer base really isn't drastically growing, and we're really quite largely dependent on either customer growth for increased revenue or weather. Hot summers, freezing cold winters are good for utilities, right? And you can see generally those the weather kind of smooths out over time, right? So just really the only thing we see is like a small, call it 0.5% maybe growth in customer numbers. The other revenue at the top is revenue that we would receive in for, let's say, pole rentals from Bell, T-Baytel, Shaw, the telecos more or less, and so that's the revenue stream we bring out now. The next slide is just to show you that dip in the capital expenditures. So in 2020, where we pulled back to protect the balance sheet against any kind of customer defaults. So you can see in 2021 we got up. We're going to be up in around the 13 million and change for 2022, and then up around the $14 million mark for 2024.
You want to tie in the significance of the cost of service with that?
Yes. So to give you a little bit of a background, and probably, you know, my predecessor here on the Kenora Hydro side of things, when Mr. Sinclair was here, he may have come in and talked once in a while, or at least at board meetings, about it's time for a cost of service application. That's where you go in. Every 5 years you go in and you appear before the regulator to reset your rates. And the regulator does this to prevent utilities from making too much money. So let's say you're in a high growth area like in Newmarket, Ontario, inside of Toronto, that's just taking off, or Milton, or the Halton region. And if those utilities never came back in for rate rebasing, they keep adding customers and they keep getting additional streams of revenue that they keep. And really what the regulator says, no, you've got to come in about every 5 years so we can readjust what your true cost is for your customers and bring those, make sure you're charging appropriate. In some cases that may end up, you know, you may see small rate reductions or it's more flat. So we go in every 5 years, and it's an expensive and lengthy process. And what the regulator will hold you to over time is you give them a plan, a 5-year plan, and you say, over the 5 years, we have this distribution system plan, this is all the capital work we're going to do, and your spending looks like this over the 5 years, or maybe it looks like this, but the bottom line is you gave them a plan. And so what our job is, when we go back in, is we have to show them, we all agreed 5 years ago it was a proven plan, and we're going to demonstrate to you now when we come back in for our new cost service application that we actually did the work that was in the plan, that we spent according to the plan. You can't just go in, get your 5-year application, get your, call it your basket of money each year, and then do what you want after that. No, you have to stick to the plan. So we continue to work along that plan. It's very detailed. And it's a risk-based approach to the assets within Kenora and Thunder Bay, and so, you know, we'll get back to, and the reason why we're trying to get caught up is we want to show them that we can do what we said we were out to do, that you've allowed us to have money in the rates for. So that's on the capital expenditures. Some corporate successes. Again, everyone's aware the merger integration is complete. There was a check would have been sent to City of Kenora. I know we sent to City of Thunder Bay as well. That merger efficiency dividend, when we go in for our cost of service application, so we're expecting to get new rates in May of 2024. So you've only got a couple of years left of receiving the benefits of the merger efficiency dividend in terms of money that will go directly into the coffers of the City of Kenora. At the time of the rate rebasing or the rate application, the cost of service application, what will happen is the regulators say, okay, those savings now have to get spread out across the customers. So the towns receive the benefit in the short term, and then once you go back in, then those benefits go directly to customers to get the rates to come back to whatever level they ought to be at. So that's just an information piece on that. Next slide. I know this wasn't part of 2021, but just in April, we just hit 5 years without a lost time incident. I'm here actually today visiting with the staff here. We're going to have a lunch celebration. We're going to shoot a little bit of video so we can have some promotional out of it. And just to thank them for the hard work and dedication that goes into maintaining this kind of record. It doesn't come without purpose to go that long without a lost time incident. So it's a very big deal. And especially considering the product that we work with is highly dangerous. It's not to say though that we don't pay attention to, whether it's small vehicle incidents, trips or falls or slips and all that, but no lost time incidents in 5 years. We moved to automated calls for planned outages so that we don't have to do mail-outs or door-to-door knockers anymore. So you may notice automated calls that might come if we're going to be doing a planned outage in your area. That's worked out well. We've also started a pilot last year in the city of Thunder Bay where, and I don't have the stats in front of me here about how much underground cable exists within the city of Kenora, but what we started doing is injecting the cables, and it allows us to not have to replace them. If you replace them, let's say at the 40-year mark, typically we're like, okay, it's time to replace them, out they come. Now what we do is we inject a resin in along the cable, and basically it's a deferred maintenance program. So it's at a fraction of the cost. We get to extend the life of those cables, and it's good for the environment, and it's really good to our bottom line. So we can take that capital money and spend it on some other things within the system. We're able to fully get the Kenora service territory on our geographic information system, which is a big deal, especially within our engineering department and our system control folks. They can have a much better line of sight into what exists in the system, and that was a couple-year project to get that done. Again, exceeded all regulated service quality indicators. The next slide is just, if you're ever in Thunder Bay and you want to have a little tour of system control, just give me a call and I can take you and show. It's kind of cool if you like technology and all that kind of stuff. The operators love to show the place as well. But we introduced a new storm management strategy, which has been very helpful inside the system control operations. And I think everyone's aware here there's been significant work with T-Baytel on fiber to the home. And we did a lot of work here in Kenora last year to help T-Baytel continue on their fiber investments. The next slide, just kind of a summary. We spent about $2.2 million in capital work here in the city of Kenora. You can see, whether it's over 200 amp connections for customers or under, it's kind of how we categorize them from a tracking perspective. 1.4 million on, whether it's relocating services or expanding some, and we got obviously our equipment like transformers and switches and meters and poles. And we sit around between 500 and 700,000 in operations, administration, maintenance type program. So just a little bit of a breakdown for you of what's spent here. And then I think on the next slide, just a bit of a story is we've spent about 900,000 so far this year. Again, a similar breakdown to what you saw in that previous one. I don't have the details because I'm not sure, exactly how much is in camera, out of camera in terms of what's potentially out there for other connections and stuff like that. But needless to say, we're aware of projects that exist in the area and are ready to assist in any kind of connection process on any of those. So forward looking on the next slide, we have a new strategic plan for 2022 to 2024. This lines up with that cost of service cadence, if I call it that. So when we come out and get our decision rate in order in May of 2024, we'll sit down with the board. I'll sit down with the board and we'll go through a new strategic plan for the next 3-year or 4-year period. One of the things you'll notice in the strategic plan is a commitment to something that we call a fully integrated network operator. Sounds, I don't know, futuristic. It's not as necessarily futuristic as it sounds. It's basically building the system to be ready for customer choice. So whether that's customer choice on connecting their own renewable energy, or they want to have EVs connected, they want to have some battery storage. It's basically to prepare the utility to get out in front and be a partner with customers, an energy partner with them on those types of things. It's no longer sufficient just to, go to the house and everyone just cares whether the light goes on. Customers are becoming much more sophisticated, and they may want a blend of some power from Synergy North, some from the rooftop, maybe they got some in storage, so we're getting ready for that. You'll see mention in there also of ESG, environmental, social, governance type pieces, which we're excited to get moving on that as well. Something you don't see a lot of in the utility space is any kind of mention of this. I mean, make no mistake, the electricity fleet in the province of Ontario is extremely clean, but that doesn't preclude us from getting out and talking about our efforts, you know, what we're doing as a company to make sure we're corporately responsible within the communities that we work in. Speaking of community, one of our 4 core values is community, and so you know, I want to say that you'll see us here a little bit more. I think we were here for the chamber event, sponsoring the Community Foundation Golf. We're going to look now that we're coming out of COVID, maybe a couple other opportunities to be here and help support the community in some sort of way here. You know, if there's ideas that come up at council or whatever, you know, I think through Kyle, you can let me know and we can look at that. What I am doing at the company is these decisions historically were made by the CEO and the public relations person. We've started an employee, it hasn't started yet, we're looking for employee participation, and so they'll handle all of our corporate donations, our volunteerism. We've got some parameters for them to work within, and we'll see where the employees can lead and drive our participation that way. Again, cost of service coming, so we're preparing for that right now. There'll be a customer survey that's going to go out in the next couple of weeks, so you'll see advertisements maybe in the paper or on radio. I don't know all the exact details just yet, but we're looking to have about 1,000 customers participate across the 2 service territories on what it is we're proposing in the rates for the 2024 application. We'll take the responses from customers and adjust if we need to based on sentiment on cost of this or cost of that. You know, it's really going to come down to those kind of decisions. Again, as a reminder, council may recall the last time I was here, we talked about that we'll be exiting rate minimization at the time the cost of service and decision is handed out, meaning that the utility will be in a position to be able to pay dividends, to charge, to pay interest to the city of Thunder Bay on their debt. Interest is already paid here, and so you know that. There will be future conversations about that.
Are there any other impacts to the city, Tim, as it pertains to rate minimization or?
No, there shouldn't be. I mean, it's really going to come down to where the shareholders land on with the utility on what a reasonable dividend policy is. So that's all I have for today. I have a moment for questions if that's okay, Your Worship.
At council, we usually do not allow questions after dedication, but since you guys have traveled so far and so long to the beautiful Lake of the Woods,
Yeah.
we're going to allow that today. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, you mentioned a couple times about the customer defaults. It might have been in the annual report, but I missed it. I apologize if it is, but have the number of defaults gone up with COVID the last couple of years?
No, we haven't seen any real evidence of that. So we're happy about that.
We didn't plan for that.
We planned for it. I mean, they're no more than the usual amount. Yeah.
Anything further, customer, Councilor Nottingham? Anything from the? Go ahead.
If I could add a closing comment, just based on what Tim said there in terms of our involvement in the community in Kenora and our ability to come here and actually meet with you in person is something that is on our agenda in terms of what we want to do. And I was thinking about this while he was speaking, that this is our second meeting in person with Kenora Council, and I think it's been close to 3 years since we've had one with City Hall Council. So I mean, we're moving away from the pandemic stuff and trying to get back into the face-to-face relationships that we kind of see some value in.
Yes, well, thanks very much for coming and presenting to us in person. It's a different world and has been a different world out there. So thank you for making the trip, because we know that people are, number one, concerned about taxes, and then the next thing is their hydro bill. So thank you very much for your deputation today.
Good.
Thanks.
Good to go. Stace, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Will it come? It's gonna come, we're gonna go for those. Okay, so We'll move forward in our agenda today.
Thanks.
And we have an addition to our agenda, and that will be the Keewatin Medical Center. So I'll ask our CAO, Kyle, to present that report.
Yeah, I understand this issue has gotten a lot of commentary, so we wanted to get a report in front of council as quickly as possible on this. So I will run through the history of the file and then wrap it up with the recommendation. So please just indulge me as I work through here. The origin of this file dates back to the beginning of this council term, as I understand it, which precedes me as well. There was a conversation between council and administration regarding city-owned property, city-owned buildings, what kind of risk and liability that was generating for the city, what kind of costs we were putting into those buildings and properties. And so ultimately, direction was provided to administration to investigate those buildings on a case-by-case basis. Also, a vacant land and growth strategy was put together, which actually identified all properties across the city which we own, and that was something that took a lot of time and a lot of work, and we put together with external consultants. And a number of properties that have come before this table over the past couple years, including Town Island, including the old OPP station on Highway 17 East. Those are dispositions that we undertook as part of the strategy and the direction that we received from council. So the logic and the rationale behind trying to generate revenue back into the city for buildings that were no longer providing value, trying to reduce operational costs, trying to reduce risk and liability to the city for buildings that were sitting idle or empty, and did of course require in many cases city staff to go out and do snow removal, do mowing, take care of furnaces, HVAC systems, windows, doors, all that type of stuff. That's sort of the rationale and the logic behind the direction. Of course, each building is unique and needs to be treated on a case-by-case basis. And so one of the properties that was identified as part of this strategy was 904 Ottawa Street, which is currently inhabited by the Keewatin Medical Center. So a little bit of history on that building. The City of Kenora took ownership of that property at the time of amalgamation, and that building actually goes back further to the town of Keewatin in 1985, and it was at that time when the Keewatin doctors in the town of Keewatin came to an agreement on a lease. So long-standing history there, 37 years, that the doctors have been at that piece of property. Based on the direction received from council with regards to evaluating properties for potential disposition, with this particular property and with the spirit of retaining medical services in the City of Kenora and in the Keewatin neighborhood, in 2019, council directed administration to start working with the Kenora Healthcare Center Board. So they, work in conjunction with the Patterson Medical Clinic, and their mandate is to manage, the asset which is the clinic, and, provide healthcare services and medical care services to the community. At that time, the city felt that this was a natural fit and aligned well with all medical professionals in the community and under the mandate for the Kenora Healthcare Center Board. During those discussions, there was a conversation for the city to sell that building to the Kenora Healthcare Center Board for $1, and they would continue to operate, the Keewatin Clinic would continue to operate out of that building. But as negotiations went on with the Kenora Healthcare Center Board, and in conjunction and in collaboration with the Keewatin Medical Clinic and the feedback that the doctors provided, the city, realized that the fit that we initially thought might be there wasn't quite there. And so we sort of set a deadline to get those negotiations over the finish line. We were not able to do so. We provided an extension to the Healthcare Center Board. We continued to work through negotiations, and ultimately they broke off because we could not come to an agreement that we felt aligned with the interests of the Keewatin Medical Clinic, the interests of the city, and the interests of the board. So having exhausted that one option for potential disposition of the property at 904 Ottawa, we re-engaged representatives of the Keewatin Medical Clinic, and at that time had a conversation about potentially transferring that building to them for $1. Heard loud and clear from the doctors at that time that their preference was to operate a clinic and not to operate a building, and the overhead that comes with that. So having exhausted that option, council turned to a process that we use very often and we've used for other properties as I've identified, whether it be Town Island or the old OPP station. And that's an expression of interest process. And what that is it's an informal opportunity for a potential buyer to express their interest in a property. And there's no obligation on the city to accept any proposals submitted through an EOI process. It's just an opportunity for the city to get some options and see if there's a potential fit. Representatives of the Keewatin Medical Clinic were strongly encouraged and were reached out to prior to the EOI process becoming public. And they were, we mentioned to them that they could express interest should they choose to. Ultimately, the EOI process closed on June 2nd, 2022, and we received 2 bids, one from Lake of the Woods District Hospital and one from Titan Partners Limited. 3 members of city administration formed an evaluation panel, and we reviewed those proposals. And after reviewing those proposals, once again, we did not see a fit that matched both the needs of the doctors and the needs of the city. And so ultimately, we have determined that the process will stop there. There's no viable option in city administration's position to continue to move forward. So the recommendation that I'm putting in front of council today is to decline the 2 proposals that we received from Lake of the Woods District Hospital and from Titan Properties, and furthermore, to retain ownership of the property for the time being and commence negotiations with the doctors at the Keewatin Medical Clinic on a new lease. Currently, that lease is on a month-to-month as we have undertaken this process. So that is the recommendation that I'm putting through council. Happy to take any questions. You will also notice that there's some budget information in there because I know this was something that would have come before council in 2019, and I just provided some update budget numbers there. So we do generate a loss on the building every year. It's a small loss. And I have also mentioned, and so that table is there. And so, there's operating expenses that come with the building, utilities, those types of things. We also do put in capital work or sort of capital-like work, whether it's windows, doors, those types of things. Stace may be able to add on to some of the work that we've done there. There's some numbers that aren't included in there because things like mowing or snow removal or staff time are not coded back to the clinic. They're coded to departments such as roads or parks. So our estimate is that there's probably an additional $1,500 to $2,000 per year on average added to the expense side. So again, just adding to that small excess of expense over revenue that we see on a year-to-year basis. We do anticipate a large capital project there over the next 3 to 5 years, depending. We are going to have a roof inspection undertaken shortly, but a new roof on that building would cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000 to $40,000. And so should the city choose to retain ownership, that is something that we anticipate will be coming in the near to medium term. And of course, the final thing that I would say is we certainly understand, particularly coming out of a global pandemic, that the healthcare sector is under significant pressure and stress. You can read the stories about burnout and anxiety and stress in the healthcare field right now, and I think everybody's aware of that, particularly as we continue to move through COVID. So I would say the doctors were pretty strong about their concerns about this adding to the uncertainty that comes with running a clinic, and so we certainly heard that message loud and clear. And just want to reiterate again, throughout this process, it has always been the city's intention to retain medical services at that facility. We certainly were hopeful that a match would come forward that would work for potentially a new owner, the doctors, and the city. At this point, I feel that we have run through the gamut of a number of different processes to try and find an owner, and that has not materialized with an option that makes everybody happy. And so, again, administration's recommendation would be to decline the 2 proposals, retain ownership for the time being, and council to direct administration to commence negotiations with the tenants on a long-term lease. Certainly there's going to be some conversations that need to happen there, and at the time that administration had another lease ready for council approval, we would bring that to council for approval so that you could see the terms and conditions of the new lease. So that wraps up my summary on that file, if council has any questions. Madam Chair.
Thanks, Kyle. Can I ask for resolution number 2? My apologies, I'm a little late on that one. We should have had that before Kyle presented us. That was my fault.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I've got resolution number 2, and it's seconded by Councillor Van Wellingham, that approval be hereby given for the following additional items to be added to today's agenda. The Keewatin Medical Center expression of interest. Thank you.
All in favor? Opposed? Hearing none, that's carried. I'll ask for resolution number 2A before we go into discussion on...
Thank you, Madam Worship. Resolution 2A, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chase, that council hereby directs administration to decline the 2 proposals submitted under the expression of interest process that closed on June 2nd, 2022, for the purpose of soliciting interest in acquiring the property located at 904 Ottawa Street, and further, that council hereby retain ownership of the property located at 904 Ottawa Street and commence negotiations with the tenants from the Keewatin Medical Clinic on a new lease arrangement or agreement. Sorry.
So thank you, Council. That report is very thorough. And I can see staff have done a lot of work, so thank you in that. So I'm going to, before I call the vote, I'm going to ask for comments or questions around the table. Councillor Van Wellingham, go ahead.
I'm in favor of the recommendation. At first, I didn't think it'd be all that great, turning down 2 proposals, 2 VOIs, and then not, but after reading everything, and listening to the people, I'm in favor of the recommendation here.
Thanks, Councillor. No comments. I'll just make a few comments going through. And as Kyle said, it was never the intention to do away with medical services in Keewatin in that building. So it's been a tough file for staff, and it's been a tough file for council. So I appreciate community's patience as we move forward with this. And Kyle was right. At the beginning of term, council decided to divest buildings that were costing the city money and were of no use. And we did that with the OPP building. We had very good information, and it was a wise decision to divest ourselves of that building. And each building, like the Keewatin Medical Building, we look at it on an individual basis and look at all of the information. Myself, I originally thought that the doctors would have been happy to acquire and maintain that building, and I now understand that that's not what they desire. They want to come into a community to deliver medical services. That's their focus, and they don't want the additional burden of owning and maintaining a building. That was something I learned through this process, and it's understandable. And in fact, many communities, in their desire to attract and retain doctors in their buildings, they will offer them buildings to practice in. Some communities offer houses to doctors. They bonus them out with cars. And particularly in the northern communities where it's so hard for us to recruit and retain doctors. So there's all sorts of good strategies, and keeping that building for the doctors and supporting them there is a good strategy for this council and for the city. And it's, I know that as we work through this file, I think we probably could have done a better job of communicating all the way around with the doctors also. I think that's a lesson learned for council as we move forward. I personally, as a councillor, I want to apologize to the community for the upset and the consternation that this process has caused, and I apologize to the doctors for that too. I've learned much through this process. So going forward, we're going to do a better job in our communication, and we're going to work closely with the doctors to rebuild that relationship in the medical community. As Kyle has said, we are in a healthcare crisis all across this province, but it's particularly acute in northwestern Ontario. And supporting our doctors and our medical professionals is a priority for us. Having said that, I do support administration's report and recommendation. And if I hear no further questions or see no comments, I'll call the vote. All in favor of resolution number 2A? Opposed, hearing none, that resolution is carried. Thank you, Councillor. I will call on resolution number 3.
Resolution number 3, Deputy Mayor, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chase, that Council of the City of Kenora hereby accepts the 2022 first quarter investment report that includes details of the Kenora Citizens Prosperity Trust Fund and general City of Kenora investments.
Councillor, any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 4.
Resolution number 4, Deputy Mayor, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chase, that Council hereby accepts the monthly financial statements of the Corporation of the City of Kenora at April 30th, 2022.
Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 5.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I move resolution number 5 and it's seconded by Councillor Poirier, that Council hereby approves the following budget amendments for 2022 as a result of recent funding announcements that were not previously built into the 2022 capital plan. $500,000 to be funded through the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation for the City of Kenora Parks Repairs and Improvement Project. $450,000 to be funded through the NOHFC for the Norman Park Playground Interpretive Area Upgrade and Improvement Project. $500,000 to be funded through NOHFC for the City of Kenora Baseball Diamond Enhancement Project. $500,000 to be funded through the NOHFC for the City of Kenora Keewatin Memorial Arena Repair and Upgrade Project. $480,000 to be funded through the NOHFC for the City of Kenora Dock Upgrade Project. $400,000 to be funded through the NOHFC for the Museum Retrofit Project, and $3,666,499.56 to be funded through the Invest in Canada Infrastructure Program through its Community, Culture and Recreation Stream Program for the Kenora Recreation Centre Rehabilitation Project. And further, that in accordance with the Notice Bylaw number 144-2007, public notice is hereby given that Council intends to amend its 2022 capital budget at its June 21st, 2022 meeting for these purposes, and further, that Council give 3 readings to a bylaw to amend the 2022 capital budget for this purpose.
Councillor Chase, any comments? Go ahead, Councillor.
Just a quick comment to administration and to Stace for all the hard work in getting some of these funding applications gone through. I mean, that's a significant burden that's alleviated from the taxpayer to see some really good investments in our community. So hats off to city administration and to your team for getting that done.
Yeah, and I echo the comments of Councillor Chase. We've been very fortunate. Those numbers show it. Some of those facilities or recreational opportunities would not get done in this community if the province and the feds have not been so generous with us in the last little while. So kudos to staff, and I look forward to seeing those improvements in the next couple of years. All in favor? Opposed? Hearing none, that resolution is carried. Resolution number 6.
Resolution number 6, Madam Deputy Mayor.
Whatever.
Let's keep it straight. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Van Wellingham, that Council authorizes a 1-year lease extension to an existing lease agreement with 446562 Ontario Limited, Inc. for use of Chipman Street parking lot adjacent to the Hings Restaurant at 101 Matheson Street South, and further that said renewal will increase the annual rent by 3% plus applicable taxes for a period from 1st of January 2022 to 31st of December 2022, and further that 3 readings be given to a bylaw for this purpose.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 7.
Resolution number 7, Deputy Mayor, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Poirier, that upon the dissolution of the Western Ontario Lumber Company, 38 properties within the City of Kenora were forfeited to the Government of Ontario, and further that Council hereby directs staff to prepare an offer to purchase letter to the Province of Ontario to acquire these 38 properties described in FCP 2200-041, list of forfeited corporate properties and property descriptions in the amount of $3,276 plus HST. And further, that in accordance with Notice Bylaw number 144-2007, public notice is hereby given that council intends to purchase these properties at its June 21st, 2022 meeting for municipal purposes. And further, that the mayor and clerk be hereby authorized to execute all documents related to this acquisition.
Thank you, Councilor Van Wallingham. Stacy Marco, did you want to make any comments about these small parcels of properties throughout the community? They're just small lots that aren't developable. This is just cleaning up files that have been around for a very long time.
Yeah, I can speak to that.
Thanks, Marco.
Most of the, well, I think all of the properties that we've acquired through this specific transaction are going to be acquiring are small bits of or I guess road right-of-ways that have been lingering in the municipality since, you know, decades or maybe 100 years or more, when the Western Lumber Company, you know, set up shop in Lakeside. And there must have been you know, subdivisions created by the Western Lumber Company at the time to create those residential lots in Lakeside, in which those right-of-ways and laneways and whatnot were never formally transferred to the former potentially Rat Portage or town of Kenora of the day. So you'll find that these aren't really residential or building lots. They're more right-of-ways for laneways and the streets in Lakeside.
Yeah, very small parcels. Right. Thanks for that explanation, Marco. Is there any other questions, staff? All in favor of this resolution? None opposed? Carried. Thank you. Resolution number 8.
Resolution number 8, Acting Deputy Mayor. That's a big one. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Van Willingham, that 3 readings be given to a bylaw to allow for an amendment to the Municipal Capital Facilities Bylaw for municipal housing project facilities to allow for a mix of affordable and market housing in municipal housing project facilities, and further, that bylaw number 101-2019 be hereby repealed.
Thank you. All in favor? None opposed? Carried. Resolution number 9.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy Mayor. I move resolution number 9, seconded by Councillor Poirier. Whereas pursuant to Section 3.2 of the Building Code Act, SO 1992 C23, as amended, Council shall appoint a chief building official and such inspectors as are necessary for the enforcement of this act. And further, that Council hereby appoints, and excuse me if I mispronounce any of these names, Barbara Mockney, Mike McKean, John Draharat, and Grant Schwarzentruber as building officials under the Building Code Act for the Corporation of the City of Kenora for the purpose of carrying out or enforcing regulations in accordance with the Building Code Act. And further, that Council hereby appoints Gerald Moore and Devin Staley as Deputy Chief Building Officials under the Building Code Act for the Corporation of the City of Kenora for the purpose of carrying out or enforcing regulations in accordance with the Building Code Act. And further, that 3 readings be given to bylaws to that effect.
Councillor Chase. Stace, did you want to comment on that report at all? No?
No. It's not his area.
I mean, I can briefly speak to it. Adam spoke to the committee of the meeting, and it's an appointment for, it's like hiring consultants to do work for different areas, and it's to cover, and if there's times where our building officials aren't available.
Okay. Thank you, Heather. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 10.
Thank you, Acting Deputy Mayor. Resolution number 10, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chase, that Council hereby approves the application for zoning bylaw amendment, file number D14-22-04, to change the zoning of the subject properties from HC Highway Commercial Zone to R3 Residential Third Density Zone, and further, that Council gives 3 readings to a bylaw to that effect.
Questions or comments? All in favor? No opposed? Carried. Resolution number 11.
Resolution number 11, Deputy Mayor, been moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chase. That council hereby approves the application for zoning bylaw amendment file number D14-22-05 to change the zoning of the subject properties from I institutional zone to GC general commercial zone, and further that council gives 3 readings to a bylaw to that effect.
All in favor? No opposition? Carried. Resolution number 12.
Resolution number 12, Acting Deputy Mayor, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chase, that council hereby appoints Spencer Sundin as a summer student bylaw enforcement officer in and for the City of Kenora under the authority of the Police Service Act, and further that this appointment is hereby authorized for the period of June 25th, 2022 to September 15th, 2022.
Thank you, Councillor Poirier. Is there any? All in favor? No opposition? Carried. Resolution number 13.
Thank you, Acting Deputy Mayor. I move resolution number 13, seconded by Councillor Van Wellingham, that council gives 3 readings to bylaw to appoint Lisa Wilcott as Deputy Division Registrar and Lottery Licensing Officer for the City of Kenora, and further that Leah Bailey be hereby repealed as Deputy Division Registrar for the City of Kenora.
All in favor? No opposition? Carried. Resolution number 14.
Resolution number 14, Acting Deputy Mayor, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chase, that the Mayor and Clerk be hereby authorized to execute the following agreements on behalf of the Corporation of the City of Kenora: Oakwood Roofing, Kuwait Memorial Arena roof repairs; BDI Limited vending truck on Harbourfront; Moncrief Construction Coca Road grade raise works; Image Advantage Solutions file scanning project; Image Advantage Solutions File Management Program; Stantec Consulting Limited General Engineering Services; Dinosaur Valley Studios Husky the Muskie remedial work; NOHFC upgrades to McLeod Park and Husky the Muskie; NOHFC Peace Park project, and further that 3 readings be given to bylaws for this purpose.
Any comments, questions, Council? All in favor? No opposition? Carried. Resolution number 15.
Deputy Mayor, resolution number 15, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Poirier, that council hereby adopts the following minutes from various City of Kenora committees: March 23rd, April 27th, and May 25th, 2022, Kenora Public Library Board minutes. That council hereby receives the following minutes from other various committees: February 24th, March 25th, and April 21st, 2022, Police Service Board; April 22nd, regular meeting, and April 26th, special meeting, Northwestern Health Unit. And further, that these minutes be circulated and ordered filed.
All in favor? No opposition? That's carried. Resolution number 16.
Madam Deputy Mayor, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Poirier, the Council of the City of Kenora hereby accepts the April 2022 Kenora Water and Wastewater Systems monthly summary report as prepared by City Administration.
All in favor? Opposed? So resolution number 17.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy Mayor. I move resolution number 17, seconded by Councillor Poirier, that council hereby authorizes the mayor and clerk to enter into a lease agreement between the Corporation of the City of Kenora and Graham Trading Co. Incorporated for the term ending April 30th, 2023 for the municipal property located at 117 Main Street South, and further that 3 readings be given to bylaw for this purpose.
Councillor Chase, Days, would you like to comment on that?
Sure. We're very excited about the fact that the Beaver Tails is going to be moving to the vacant lot on Main Street, and they're going to be basically situating their food truck in the harbor front on the back side of the deck, and then use the deck for the customers to come up. And so they're looking forward to moving that shortly. and hooking up your services and running your business from there.
Thanks, Stace. Any questions, comments from council? All in favor? No opposition, carried. Resolution number 18.
Resolution number 18, acting deputy mayor, and it looks like I drew the short straw today. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Van Willingham, that the following bylaws be now read a first and second time and approved in their present form and presented for third and final reading. Number 80-2022, confirmatory. 81-2022, budget amendment, 2022 successful funding projects. 82-2022, Hings lease rental. 83-2022, acquisition of land, Western Ontario Lumber Limited. Number 84-2022, amendment to the Municipal Capital Facilities Bylaw. Number 85-2022, building officials appointment bylaw. Number 86-2022, zoning bylaw amendment, D14-22-04, 1404 River Drive. Number 87-2022, zoning bylaw amendment, D14-22-05, 216 Matheson Street South. 88-2022, summer student bylaw officer appointment. Number 89-2022, deputy division registrar appointment. Number 90-2022, Oakwood roofing agreement, Kuwait Memorial Arena roof repairs. Number 91-2022, BDI limited agreement, vending truck on Harborfront. Number 92-2022, Moncrief construction agreement, Coca Road grade raise works. Number 93-2022, Image Advantage Solutions agreement, file scanning project. Number 94-2022, Image Advantage Solutions agreement, file management program. Number 95-2022, Stantec Consulting Limited agreement, general engineering services. Number 96-2022, Dinosaur Valley Studios agreement, Husky the Muskie remedial work. Number 97-2022, NOHFC funding agreement, upgrades to McLeod Park and Husky the Muskie. Number 98-2022, NOHFC funding agreement, Peace Park project. Number 99-2022, Graham and Graham Trading Company lease agreement, 117 Main Street South.
Missed a couple of those. Can you read that again? All in favor? No opposition, that's carried. Thank you. That concludes the resolutions. Are there any notices of motion today? Hearing none. There are no proclamations. I'll go around the table and starting with announcements, I'm going to go to Councillor Van Willingham.
I have nothing today, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Poirier.
I have nothing today.
Councillor Shays.
Thank you. I mean, today is National Indigenous Peoples Day, so I just wanted to make a comment on that and just thank the Kenora Chiefs Advisory, their supporters, their sponsors, all the volunteers that are running the event today and inviting everybody in the community to participate. I sure hope everybody has an opportunity to go out there and see what's happening at that property, to go and be a part of that community and really take part in that event today. So thank you to that organization for putting that on, and that's what I want to say.
Thank you, Councillor Shays. Councillor McMillan.
Yes, I have a couple of comments, Madam Deputy Mayor. And I just support what Councillor Chase says. I was out there this morning to bring greetings from the city. The weather came through. It was a wonderful day, very windy. I couldn't hold my notes in my hand to give the welcoming speech, which was probably a sign from above. So it was short, but it was a wonderful day. Lots of school children out there. And when I was leaving, both Joe Barnes and Chief Copen has mentioned, if you can encourage anybody from council, if they have the time, to drop out, even if it's just for a short time, and any of our staff or citizens. And I understand there's a fish fry at 5 tonight, so it looks very good, and it's very impressive out there. I was totally impressed. So, and secondly, I just thank for the opportunity. At the end of this term, I will have spent just shy of 28 years as a member of City Council. I've had the good fortune to work with many great women and men who have served our city as councillors and mayors over the years. I, of course, include our current mayor, Dan Raynard, Deputy Mayor Councillor Smith, Mort Goss, Chris, Andrew, Graham. So it's been quite an honor. In the past 3 decades, I've seen our city grow and evolve. Economic diversification, infrastructure improvements, addressing climate change, and reconciliation are just a few of important issues that have impacted our community. And having been part of these discussions has been a very humbling and singular honor that I will always cherish. I want to thank the people of Kenora for placing their trust in me, for voting for me over the past 28 years. And I don't think it's any surprise I've decided to retire and not seek re-election this fall. I've enjoyed my time here, but it is now time to spend more time with my wife Glenda, my life partner. And this community, I believe, is the best place to live, work, and play in all of Canada. We have a great organization managing our city, and I want to especially thank all our city staff for their dedication and commitment and hard work in making this city a great place to live. While my time in council is coming to an end, I really want to encourage anyone that's out there thinking of running to come forth and serve our city and continue to help move our community forward. I made it through.
I thought you were going to try and beat Hazel's record. No?
I haven't got that many years left.
Well, thanks for that, Councillor McMillan.
Thank you.
It's your time to retire. You've certainly done the city of Kenora and the old town of Kenora. Good service. And Keewatin. Well, wait a minute. Now that the jury's still out on that one. But I want to say, as a new councillor, when I came on stream, which is now I'm into my 3rd term, and the value of having councillors that have been around for a very long time cannot be understated on a council. You were always so welcoming, you know, so encouraging all the time. To have someone like you help the newbies, give them that confidence to move forward. I mean, I cannot understate the value of that in communities and on councils. So I personally thank you for being so gracious and helpful. I'm going to miss you. Sorry you didn't break up, but I have to. It's hard to say goodbye.
You don't have to say goodbye.
No.
Okay.
Thank you for that. So, no other comments or councils or comments or questions?
Yeah, sorry, we are going to take the roundtable opportunity. Just wanted to give Marco an opportunity to provide updates on the road situation with regards to the floods, and then he's also just going to provide an update on some of the capital projects that we have on the go, just for council and for the public's consideration. So go ahead.
Well, we'll start off with the flood update. Basically, there's 6 areas of interest we're looking at currently. Sadesky Road being one of them. Water's been over the road there for at least a couple of weeks, and as of yesterday, we've had a contractor mobilize onto that road to do a grade raise through it to get the residents at that dead end, I guess, through the water. And I've been told, hopefully by end of today, that that work should be completed, so those residents should be able to get in and out of their homes by end of day. Following Sadesky Road, the contractor's going to be moving up to Coker Road to start that grade raise, which I think they're anticipating about a 5 to 7 day work period. It's a much larger project up in the north end compared to what we were doing on Sadesky Road for the last couple of days. Second West Bay Road, there's still water over the road. We have found that one side of the road is a little bit higher than the other, so we've taken the opportunity to put up some yield to oncoming traffic signs, and it's down to 1 lane, I guess, through that specific area where there's water over the road. I think there's about a half a dozen homes or so at the end of that, so hopefully that's, you know, adequate enough to kind of get us over the hump for that one for now. but we're definitely keeping our eyes on water levels at that location as they tend to creep up and down based on the wind and the amount of rain and everything else that's happening there. So at this point in time, I think we're still below the 6-inch kind of criteria we set to close roads. So it still remains open to one lane at this point, but they are traveling through water at this point. The other one on our list here is Golf Course Road just before Washkaniegam First Nation. The water is still not over the road, but it is still up to the edges of the road there, so we're still keeping an eye on that one. Pinecone, where there's been a slip failure on the shoulder. We've had a geotechnical consultant show up on Friday, and they've done some investigations, done some drilling. So we're hoping to get a report back from that consultant, hopefully in the first half of July, to come up with some ideas on why it's failing and potential options we can look at to maybe make a more permanent fix in the future for that one. The last one we've been also keeping an eye on is Highway 17 east of Dingwalls and the Days Inn. If anybody's gone through that area, you can see there's quite a bit of water up against the curbs there. So basically, as I indicated at last council meeting, that is lake level. So the water has built up on the lake. It's then risen Lawrenson Creek, which is then back, or I guess back drained all of the water through the storm system in behind Dingwalls and is now coming out of the grates on the highway there. So the water you see on the highway there is lake level. So I don't know if there's any questions in regards to the flood information or any kind of works that we're proceeding with on those.
Go ahead, Chris.
It was mentioned before that the emergency repairs and that would be covered by the fund, but are some of these improvements that won't be covered?
Yeah, looking through the disaster relief guidelines, to me, I think it's quite clear that any improvements to the road systems are not covered. That would be the grade raises and things of that nature. They're more attuned to covering costs for reinstatement back to the infrastructure's original condition or state. So an example of a grade raise, there's the potential that the province would consider that an improvement for cases perhaps where culverts have washed out or roads have been totally breached and impassable because they've been washed out. Those types of conditions and whatnot are probably more acceptable for disaster relief types of conditions and payments.
So I think the most important thing, it's 100+ pages, the explanation around that program. So our team is going to go through that, and we're going to do our best to put forward the costs that, the costs that we've incurred. And, we'll see. At the end of the day, it's going to be a provincial decision. The things that I can tell you, as I expressed to council, is the threshold is about 3% of our net tax levy. So it's around that $775,000 mark in eligible expenses. So, we do anticipate that we'll exceed that amount, but it is a provincial. It's up to the province to determine how they apply the criteria for that. So we're continuing to document anything and everything related to the floods, and we will put that forward to the province. So whether that's wages of our crews, materials and supplies, the engineering that's taking place there on Pinecone. So it's sort of a bit of a wait and see, and understanding too the way that the province. Everybody in Northwestern Ontario is kind of going through this, so the province is going to have a lot of applications and information to wade through. Like I said there, the program itself is 100 and something pages, so by the time they get all of our information, it's going to be quite hefty. So like I said, we're just monitoring and tracking everything, and we're going to submit all the costs that we've incurred to the province, and then we'll allow them to take the process forward.
That's great, I wish you luck.
Any further comments or questions?
Just jump right into, I am sending council those emails every day from the control board now. So the increase in water level has slowed down certainly, but we are still kind of at the mercy of precipitation events. We are not at that peak yet based on the information that we have. So We hope that we're on the back nine, so to speak, with these, floods and emergencies, but we'll just continue to do the best job we can. And the emergency control group is continuing to meet multiple times a week, and we're continuing to go and monitor those locations, and we will continue to apply the same criteria that we have throughout the emergency. Again, just want to say that we really appreciate the patience with the public. I know sometimes when the public is directly impacted, the main concern is speed, how quickly the city can get there and sort of address things. There are a number of factors that we have to consider as we lay out improvements and try to secure contractors and try and find the money. So again, just want to thank members of the public for their patience. I know it's been a long emergency, a real slow burn. I mean, we're in week number 8 on this already, so we do just hope that it gets hot and dry and the lake crests here, and we can start to move forward, hopefully, and have that water dissipate. So Marco can provide a little bit of an update, because I'm sure you're starting to see some roads get closed and some capital work start up, so just wanted to provide an update for council and the public on those projects.
Yeah, so in terms of the capital projects that have been kicked off to date, or actually completed, some of them, First Avenue South by Frosted Foods was paved on June 3rd and reopened there, so I think that was a blessing for a lot of the motorists that wanted to try and get into that area of town based on the previous condition and the accelerated deterioration of that section of road that occurred over the winter. We had a failed storm sewer, which required a fast action and replacement just on the south side of Pro Auto Glass off of River Drive or Railway Street. That system there is quite important because it actually takes a lot of runoff from the Beaver Brae area. Not sure if many people are aware, but there's a little pond at the bottom of Preston Street, just at the bottom of the hill of Beaver Brae, and it's quite a substantial pond in which this storm system drains and it keeps down to a lower level. So I'm glad we were able to act on that quite quickly. It was a fairly complex job because the pipe was quite close to the one side of their building there, so there was quite a bit of time and effort and coordination with the contractor taken on that one to make sure that there was no detriment to their building. 2nd Street South Sewer and Water Renewal Project is kicked off. It actually started on May 30th, even though the road wasn't closed at that time. The contractor was setting up temporary water services and whatnot for the impending water and sewer replacement. So as of the last week or so, that road has been closed, and the 2 blocks of 2nd Street will be fully renewed from 5th Avenue to 7th Avenue South with new sewer and water and new surface works for sidewalks and pavement. The other project that we have started up is Highway 17 East repaving along the Sunset Strip. It started around June 13th. Doesn't look like there's a lot of action going on there, but currently what they're doing is they're doing sidewalk improvements to each of the driveways to make them accessibly or meet the Ontario accessibility requirements for, I guess, tactile and warning strips for visually impaired people and whatnot. So that's the first bit of business that's happening out there now. Following that, part of this project also includes a sewer and water extension from around the Comfort Inn area westerly towards town to the vacant lot that the city owns that we're looking at potentially divesting for development purposes. So that sewer and water was put in conjunction with this paving project as synergies for both of those types of infrastructure upgrades. Line painting commenced last week. Usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks before they're done, but it's obviously weather dependent, so I think the last few days they've been on and off again, so that is progressing or has started. The biannual bridge inspection started today. They'll last for the next few days. Right now you'll probably see a bunch of traffic backed up to the roundabout here as you leave there on the, I think the hospital or Winnipeg River East Branch Bridge right now as we speak, down to 1 lane. So the first bit of bridges that are scheduled will be the more complex ones that require man access platforms to go underneath with the truck up on top and the access arm that goes underneath for these types of inspections. And these inspections will continue on probably for the next few months. There's 23 some structures that they inspect. I believe there's about 20 bridges, 21 bridges. They also inspect the parkade, and they also inspect the tipping floor at the transfer station. It's hoped that that report should be submitted by the end of the year, or around December sometime. There's been some bridge maintenance done to date too, with pressure washing and waterproofing of several various bridges to date. And the Darlington Bridge in Keewatin and the Parsons Street Bridge in Norman have had their expansion joint seals replaced also as part of that program. Last on the list here is the Kenora area landfill perimeter road. It was started last year, and it kind of ran out of steam with an early winter and whatnot. And if you recall, I think in the previous council meeting, we asked for some carryover monies out of reserves to reactivate that specific project. So basically, it has some ditching, some hydro seeding, some cleanup and whatnot for the phase 1 project there, which gets us not quite halfway around the landfill. And I think phase 2 project is planned for 2023 to finish that road on the last leg to get it around the landfill. So that's kind of a synopsis of where we're at with the projects today.
Councillor Poirier?
Thanks, Marco. Just a quick question. I know you were talking about projects that have either started or getting ready to start. I noticed Railway Street wasn't on your...
Yeah, right now I just provided projects that are kind of either imminently starting or have started.
Okay.
So yeah, this doesn't include the full list, so I just wanted to give council or make them aware of what's started. Yeah, obviously Railway Street is still on the books, and the way that is working is Pioneer Construction is the general contractor for that one. So in addition to paving Highway 17 East, which is their first project we wanted them on, from there they're supposed to be going to repave the 9th Street Hill from Houghton Road up to Artillery Way. And we wanted to try and get that done sometime in July or August before the school buses start up again. Seeing the first student has a lot of buses coming out of that area. And we're still working with schedules and whatnot on Railway Street too. That's also one of their third projects they're looking at. So it is in the mix. We just haven't pinned down an exact date for starting either the 9th Street or Railway Street projects.
Okay, and just a supplementary question. I believe the first was the First Avenue, Matheson Street, that corner there. Was there any discussions about any type of, not necessarily a controlled crosswalk, but something that we could look at doing there? Was that any part of the discussions in that project?
No, not at this time. Looking at that specific corner and the closeness of the Frosted Foods building to that corner, it's always been a bit of an unsafe condition. And, I guess the city in most regards, when we look at requests for crosswalks and whatnot, just because we've painted maybe some crosswalks on the pavement doesn't necessarily mean it's safe. And so we don't want to give the wrong impression or give a false sense of security for some of these locations. Obviously, it's much easier if there's a 4-way stop or at least a 2-way stop and things of that nature. In Kenora, we've got quite a few spots where it's not very conventional in terms of the road layout. You're always making a left or right-hand turn. The streets aren't all north-south, east-west with nice intersections and whatnot. So it is a bit of a difficult situation that we're put in when we're asked for these types of requests, and we really don't want to promote something that may give a false sense of security, like I said. So at that location, I guess you're wanting to make that decision to cross there based on your own capabilities and risk, not risk, I guess, but based on your capabilities to cross there, and probably even the time of day, the amount of traffic and so on. So in a lot of cases, we do ask pedestrians to try and cross at more safer spots. I know in Kenora, especially in the downtown core, quite a bit of us locals are used to kind of, walking across the street between traffic and whatnot, which again isn't, recommended. But there are other locations similar to that we've been asked to look at, but we just don't want to promote something that we can't, ensure safety or follow certain types of guidelines and regulations where crosswalks should be placed.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Chris?
While the work is going on excuse me, Sunset Strip, Husky and that, will they be looking at the intersection about it seems that you have to be in a certain spot for that light to turn. There's always backed up to McCann Way. I don't know if Graham mentioned or noticed that there lately about the intersection.
Yeah, and we do have signs. There is signs on the side of the road where it says stop here. So especially in winter conditions when you can't see pavement markings, you need signs. So that specific spot I drive through quite frequently myself, and there have been conditions where people haven't pulled up far enough or they've pulled up too far. The key to that location there is there is, like I said, there is a sign on the side where it says stop here, so your front of your vehicle should be up to that, and that's where you would see the painted stop bar in the summer or during non-winter conditions. The other thing to line up with is directly across the street at the rock cut on the Comfort Inn side, there is black and white arrow signs that say, I think Highway 17 east and west with turn arrows. If you line up with that, you should be in the right spot. So there is some way to figure it out, lining up with the appropriate signage there. We've had quite a few people complain or bring to our attention that they waited and they waited. Well, there is certain areas you need to be in for that specific loop to be under your car to get that side traffic. So in this case here, and very similar to the one at the A&W, it works exactly the same way. There's a sensor underneath the asphalt on 5th Street to get the green light to proceed onto the highway. I guess that one isn't so problematic because I think it's a little bit narrower. You're up against an island there, and most of the time people can hit that. Being a left turn lane out more in the middle of McCann Way, it is a little bit more challenging to make sure your vehicle is in the right spot. We've actually had the electricians go down there several times and say, no, there's nothing wrong here. They're just not hitting the loop.
So there's been some really good line painting that's happened too, so that certainly makes the roads look a lot better. So that's our update.
Thank you for that, Marco, and thanks to staff for all their hard work. It's been difficult, right, like Kyle said, right across the province with the flooding and that everybody's dealing with. So I think staff are doing an amazing job. I'm sure people on Sandusky Road and all those other roads where they're getting lifted will feel some kind of relief here in the next few days for sure. So thank you for that. And no other comments around the table. We'll ask for resolution number, sorry, 19. Go into close.
Deputy Mayor, resolution number 19, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chase, that pursuant to Section 239 of the Municipal Act as amended, authorization is hereby given for council to move into a closed session at 1:30 p.m. to discuss items pertaining to the following. 1, education and training members of council. 4 matters: CAO, Mayor, Development Services, and Tourism brand updates. 2, disposition of land. 1 matter: Harbourfront redevelopment project update.
Thanks, Councilor Mollingham. All in favor? None opposed? Carried. Thank you.